You think Tank Dell will have success against the Jets? I think he kind of has to. I know that isn't quite the answer you might be looking for, but he is the number one. I mean, who else is Stroud really going to pass to? He's been using his wide receivers pretty effectively throughout the season. Now, the one thing good to remember is Dell has had, maybe what was it, a couple of weeks ago, he had a good week. So obviously Stroud is used to him, which is a positive. So let me just see. I mean, he hasn't played, he's been inconsistent. He had 11.5 points last week. 2 weeks before that, he had 15.2. So Stroud has been passing to him. So it's, not a complete and utter, hey, Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. How's it going, buddy? Over on YouTube. He always joins. I kept the bottom black on TikTok tonight, guys, because I thought it might be easier for you to read the chats. Okay, Joel Scarrow asks, rate my trade. Traded Kupp and Goff for Kamara, Gibbs, and Reed. I think, obviously, you don't need a quarterback. You have a quarterback. So that was kind of like a dump, getting rid of Goff. Now, it seems like you needed running backs because you got two in Alvin Kamara and Gibbs. Now, Reed, and this was a conversation I was actually having with my son just before this. Reed doesn't really have much value at all right now. And the reason for that is if you actually look at the points that he puts up, even if Willis has to play this weekend, this is a short-term thing, but if Willis plays, he still doesn't get a lot of points on average. He's very inconsistent. So yeah, I mean, I think you did good because you got rid of Goff. You probably have a good quarterback or two still. You got Kamara and Gibbs essentially for Kupp, and you dumped Goff. And you got Reed if he ever, if Love ever stops passing to 18 different people, maybe Reed would put up some real good fantasy points. But he passes to Wicks and Dobbs and Kraft and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not always a great situation. All right, Leo, I traded Pollard and Amari for CMC. Yeah, I mean, CMC is going to come back. Amari had a good week. He didn't have 2 weeks ago. He didn't have a great week this past week. So that's a little worrisome. So, yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. But I think getting CMC, let's hope for your sake that he comes back. I mean, the question is CMC going to come back at the level that we're used to? And if he does, you did a heck of a job on this trade. If he doesn't, and that's sort of the risk you took, then you kind of screwed yourself. Sorry to say. Best defense to start this week. Well, Pittsburgh's out. Detroit's not bad. Let me just look up fantasy defenses because that's a little bit different than when I talk about defenses. I'm usually talking about who gives up the least amount of yards and things like that. So let me look up defense. I'm just going to go, I like to go back 4 weeks as a total. So Pittsburgh's 1, Denver's 2, and Denver plays Baltimore. So it might be hard stopping Derrick Henry, but they might do a decent job against the pass. Denver, Detroit, Washington are probably the top 3. Denver, Detroit, Washington, maybe New York are the top 3. So, all right. Let's see here. Oh, I know what's different. Sorry. Any questions on YouTube? All right, we got some people on YouTube. Let me just move this over. Scroll this down. Oh, Cammy sent a rose. All right, Cammy, you jumped to the front of the line. Thank you for the rose. I must have missed that when I was looking around. For some reason, okay, start Downs, Ridley, or DJ. Okay, Downs. I'm just writing this down because I have a habit of becoming an airhead, or DJ. Downs. I want to say Downs off the bat, but let me just check on that. Downs plays Minnesota. Now, they did have a good defense. Downs had 20 points. Downs produced 24 in his fantasy outlook. Yeah, I mean, Downs does well with Flacco as the quarterback. So I'm leaning towards Downs right now because he had very productive weeks in weeks 4 through 6 when Flacco was definitively the starter. Let me just look up Ridley real quick. Ridley's a bit inconsistent, and they play New England, so there's a chance that they could, Ridley got 17 points against a pretty tough Detroit team, so he could get more against New England. But let me see if there's anything else that they're talking about here. Last 2 games, let me just turn this a little bit. Let's see. But the veteran receiver could be operating in week 4 with Will Levis, as this quarterback Levis has missed the Titans' last 2 games. Okay, so Ridley did well with Mason Rudolph and not necessarily Will Levis. And it looks like Will Levis probably will be the quarterback. So okay. On 15 turn, Ridley generated the big line while Mason Rudolph was under center. So if Mason Rudolph is under center, Ridley has value. I don't know for a fact who is quarterbacking yet. So I'm still leaning towards Downs. Let's look at DJ. All right. Yeah, Moore's been very, very unproductive the last 2 weeks. He's had 4 points both. Yeah, this could be one of the worst seasons of his career. So I wouldn't do more. I'm leaning towards Downs. If you have any doubt or anything like that, I would go with Ridley, but Moore is really not having a good season. So I would not play him at all at this point. All right. So there's a couple ways you can get, we're all caught up on gifting. So there's a couple ways I can read your texts or your chats. Let's see. If you follow me or if you've gifted in the past, Mar, do I sit Stroud for Kyler this week? Well, let me see. Where is my Stroud for Kyler? See, I don't always remember who everybody plays. Ooh. I would start Stroud because Kyler's playing the Bears, and I think the Bears do a good job against most quarterbacks. I think they pressure the ball really well. I think they have a very good defense. So I could see where Kyler doesn't have a great game. Just sort of, well, let's look at the Bears pass defense. I'll just look this up real quick. The Bears are number 11, and the Jets are number 2. So actually, the Bears are a little bit worse than the Jets, although I got to tell you, I would rather go up against the Jets defensively than I would the Bears. This is just average yards per game. I mean, statistically speaking, it's a better game for the Cardinals than it is for Houston. So, yeah, I mean, on paper, the analytics are telling me that, yeah, you should start Kyler because it's a better matchup for him. Hey, Sweatshirts is here. He'll be next on the list. So although I have to tell you that, I can dig a little bit deeper. Let's see. Okay, real quick before I get the Sweatshirts. Thank you for the pumpkin. Thank you for the witchy kitty. Thank you. Okay, let's look at overall defense. The Bears' overall defense is number 11, and the Jets are number 4. Oh boy. Well, I guess you got to go with Kyler Murray then. I mean, based on the matchup. All right, let's go to sweatshirts. Goff or Baker this week? What you think? Oh, that's a great question. Detroit plays Green Bay. I know that Baker plays Kansas City. Now, the Chiefs' overall defense is number 5, and we know that they have a pretty good pass defense, although it's ranked, believe it or not, number 17 for yards on average per game. I'm still thinking that like Baker has Otten to throw to. He's got Rachaad White out of the backfield. Maybe he'll start passing more to Jalen McMillan, who's right now the number 1 wide receiver for them. You know, and he has his legs. You know, Goff has, because Jamo's still suspended. You have, you know, St. Brown as an option there, you know, tight ends, but nothing like Otten has been putting up. I lean towards Baker because I think he'll still be able to throw the ball. But while I have you here, sweatshirts, and if everyone could just bear with me for a second here, what I want to do is look up real quick how maybe, well, let's see who Baker, let's first of all see who, let me just go through everybody Baker's played. Cincinnati, Seattle, the Jets. Okay, let's look at, no, wrong Baker. How the heck did that happen? Baker Mayfield. All right. Okay, Denver, he had 9.52 points. Philadelphia, 28. Atlanta, 23. New Orleans, 28. Baltimore, who allows a lot of passing, they're not that great, 29. Atlanta. Okay, so if the Chiefs passing are 17. They played, well, let me see, what's Atlanta? Atlanta's 18. The Chiefs are 17. What is Philadelphia? The Eagles. They're 10. And against the Eagles, he had 28 points. Now against Denver, for some reason, he only had 9.52. And they're number 4. So my guess is Baker should probably put up in the 20s again. He might not get 24, but he'll probably get at least 20. And in a 10-team league, I think that that's good. Let me just look up Goff and see what he's been doing the last few games. And after this, guys, we're caught up on gifts. So I'll go back to whoever follows. So hit that follow button. I'm trying to get 50 follows again tonight, just like last night. So hit that follow. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe. And everybody, don't forget to hit that like button. I guess it's YouTube and Twitch, although I don't. Yeah, I mean, Goff has had last week against Tennessee, 15, against Minnesota, 18. Now, surprisingly, they're both pretty good defensively. The Titans are number 1 pass defense. And the Vikings, where are the Vikings? Well, the Vikings are 30th out of 32. So, yeah, I would start Baker, even though it's a matchup with the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs' defense is real. I think that Baker Mayfield can get them out of it with his legs, so that's always a good sign. All right, can everybody hear me okay on TikTok? I'm just asking because I'm trying to use this mic on TikTok because I realized that the new computer I got to do TikTok, the internal microphone is horrible. I was listening back to it and it was horrible. Okay, no questions on YouTube. All right, so Josh is here. I bet you it's Centino. Oh, thank you for the ghost and the rose. Ghost, it's Halloween. Thank you all. Happy Halloween, everybody. Josh, what is your question? No question. Happy Halloween. Well, right back at you, Josh. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Always great to have someone on board like you. So thank you very much. All right. I'm sure there's a lot going on. Sound of TT is great. Okay. Sweatshirts. Thank you very much. All right. So if you follow me or if you've gifted in the past, you will get your question read. We don't really have a lot of people online right now on TikTok or on YouTube. I guess people are trick-or-treating with their kids right now. So, or families are doing something. So let me see here. Might just go to rando freebies. I haven't done that in a while. Okay, so I'm scrolling it. Ooh, followed. Relv88 followed. How do you feel about Jacoby long-term as a flex, given he's the only wideout? Well, I think, wasn't his last game decent or good? Let me just look that up. I looked it up a couple days ago. I mean, he had 14 points against the Chiefs. You got to figure being the number one. Now, I'm not going to tell you that he's going to get 14 every week. I'm not sold on that. I almost said Oakland, on that Raiders offense. And I don't think Minshew is like the next coming of Tom Brady or even close to that. But probably not a bad idea to start him, to keep him playing Jacoby Myers. Yeah, probably not a bad idea. If you have to. I mean, it sounds like you have to, like you don't have any other options. So yeah, I would definitely, I think since he's the number one, he had 14 last week, and that was with Minshew, and their schedule, not that I put a lot of weight in the schedule. I went back and forth with someone last night who told me one of my analyses, if you will, were probably it was the first time that someone told him that that trade wasn't a good trade, but they play Cincinnati, Miami's decent defensively, Denver is, Kansas City again, Tampa Bay, you can pass on them, Atlanta you can pass, Jacksonville and New Orleans aren't doing so great defensively. So yeah, I mean, I think the rest of the season won't be bad. I think he'll be able to catch the ball a lot. So thank you very much. Thank you for following, Relv. All right. We're all caught up on the gifting. We're looking for folks that followed KTXJD. Cooks and Marv for Adams and Barkley. Cooks and Marvin Harrison for Davante Adams and Saquon Barkley. KTX, if you're getting Adams and Barkley in that deal, I would make that deal yesterday. If you're giving up Cooks and Marvin Harrison Jr., yeah, I mean, if you're getting Saquon Barkley, I mean, if he was giving you Cooks and Marvin Harrison Jr. for Barkley, I would do the deal. Okay. Now, if you're giving up Adams and Barkley, because it's not 100% clear, Cooks and Marv for Adams and Barkley, I don't know which one exactly you have, but I can tell you that who's ever getting Barkley in that deal, and we're talking about Saquon Barkley. Hey, Jose, glad to have you on board, buddy. Who's ever getting Barkley is winning that deal. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a good week last week, and that's great. And I own him, but he was on my bench, and on another team I dropped him. He's been very inconsistent. We want to love him, maybe because of his name and his dad and all that kind of stuff. And the, highly touted wide receiver, all this other kind of stuff, but he's been wildly inconsistent. And I'm not talking about the game with the concussion. So yeah, if you get Barkley in that deal, you've won that deal. All right. We are caught up on gifts. So, all right, Josh, question now. T. Higgins or Jacoby Myers, flex roll. Well, I think T. Higgins is still injured. Jacoby is not. Myers is not. But I think T. Higgins, let's just see. Dun, dun, dun. He's still questionable. Let's see. Higgins isn't practicing Thursday. So, okay, so here's the deal. If Higgins doesn't practice tomorrow, he's probably not going to play. If he practices, has a full practice, he probably will play, like 90%. If he's limited, I would say it's 50-50 at best. Usually, they'll sit out Wednesday, Thursday, and then they have a full practice on Friday, and then they go at the game. I mean, we're in the middle of the season, so a lot of these guys and a lot of these teams have sort of a wink, like, hey, just take it easy for a couple days. They know what to expect, and there's only a week between games, kind of thing. I mean, they don't need a lot of preparation to be in these. So yeah, that's so what I'm saying is, if T. Higgins plays, I would start T. Higgins. If he can't, I would go with Jakobi Meyers. I mean, T. Higgins is a little bit more consistent when he's playing on offense, obviously, or he only plays on offense. What am I talking about? All right. So I hope I answered that. If T. Higgins plays, play T. Higgins. If not, Jakobi. All right. Fam First on YouTube, Murray or Nix? Let me just take a look at that real quick. So Murray plays Chicago, which I don't love that matchup, but I don't want to just go by my gut, okay? Now, Nix, on the other hand, why can I never see these things? I should. Other TikTokers and YouTubers know who everybody's playing. Okay, so here's the thing. Denver plays Baltimore. Now, Baltimore's run defense is number one in so much as they allow the fewest number of yards rushing per game. Okay, so there's that, but then they're really bad in pass defense. So like they're like 30th or something like that. I mean, I could look it up for you and not guess, but that's rushing defense. Yeah, the Ravens are actually 32nd now out of 32 teams, obviously. They allow 291 yards through the air and 17 touchdowns, which is one of the highest, if not tied for the highest mark in the NFL. So they're not so good in the passing defense. And so because of that, I would actually go with Denver. I mean, I would go with Kyler Murray. The other, okay, let me look up Nix and Murray real quick, because I don't want to just, I try not to be one of these guys on TikTok or YouTube that goes with their gut, because it's just not worth it. Because so many people, like, okay, so Bo Nix, the last 4 weeks ago, 23, 21, 14, 29. Remember, one of my things is, if you're in a 10-team league, you want to get you want 20 points or 19 points rather, or higher by your quarterback. He's done that 3 of the last 4 weeks. Now we look at Murray, okay, and I think he's been pretty good. I think he's somewhat improved on that. Murray's been 22, 21, 11, and 25. Wow. I mean, this is like neck and neck. Well, let's see. Chicago, the Bears. The Bears' pass defense is 11, so they're way better than the Ravens. Let's look at overall defense. Ravens' overall defense is really cemented by, or helped by, where are we at here? Ravens are 25th overall. The Bears are 11th. So I would actually go with Bo Nix based on the matchup. I would go with Nix. It's weird. I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm old enough to remember when Baltimore had like one of the best defenses in the NFL ever for a while. And it's weird for me to say like Baltimore's defense isn't so good, but it's not. So yeah, I would definitely go with Bo Nix. Sorry, Fam First, that it took so long, but I would go with they're pretty close though. I mean, if you wanted to start with Murray because you thought I was full of it, be my guest. But based on the matchup and the ranking of that defense in the matchup, I would go with Nix. All right, we're all caught up on gifts. We're all caught up on YouTube. So if you follow me, so hit that follow button on TikTok. And if you've gifted in the past, you jump up spots. Let's see here. Who has followed on TikTok? D-Doll has donated before. Start Sutton. Okay. Well, you're not giving me a lot of information as to who you'd be sitting, but I can kind of tell you. Oh, geez, I can't type. How's everybody doing on Halloween? I hope nobody's too scared or anything. Okay. If we're going with the idea that Baltimore can pass the ball against Denver can pass the ball against Baltimore. I'm getting confused here. So let me look at Denver. Yeah, Cortland Sutton is the number one guy. He had 13 points. Then I guess he didn't play. Then he had 13 points, and he had 4 and 13. I mean, against Carolina, he only had 13 points. Against the Chargers, he only had 13 points. But technically speaking, Baltimore is not a very good defense. Therefore, yeah, I mean, I think you can start him. I don't know who you're sitting, D-Dale, but I think, if he's an option, if, he's on your team and you've thought about it, you can start him. Now, obviously, you don't want to sit, I don't know, Justin Jefferson or something like that, but you're thinking about it. I think you can start Sutton, and, he's reached 13 points 3 times, which in a 10-team league is very important. That's what you want out of your wide receivers and running backs. And he's done that 3 of the last 5 weeks. Actually, one of the weeks, I don't think he played, or he had 0 points and 0 targets. So without taking 17 minutes to look into that. Okay, so 3 of the last 4 weeks, he's gotten 13 points or above. So yes, you can start Sutton. Sorry to take such a long time on that one. All right, we got more people following. Who do we have following? And I can read your chats. All right, Hershey Gutierrez. Oh, Amanda Rodriguez is on here. Let me get to Hershey and I'll go to Amanda, I promise. Keep or trade Mason. Well, if you can trade him, because CMC is probably going to come back, in like 2 weeks? Because his progression has been going well, his injury recovery. So that's a good thing. So I would try to trade him if you can. Otherwise, in 2 weeks or maybe 3 at the most, he's not going to have any value. You're talking about Jordan Mason, I'm assuming. Unless I'm getting confused that there's another Mason out there that you would be asking me about. But yeah, I would try to trade him, because after 2 weeks, he's not going to have any value. Okay. Amanda Rodriguez. Hi, do you think Breece will have a good game this week? I hope so. God, talk about inconsistent. Houston's run defense, so for tonight's game, that is, Texans' run defense is 13, so middle of the road. He should be all right. Let me just see. Let me go backwards here and see what running backs have done against Houston, okay? Let's see. Let's see what Josh Jacobs did 2 weeks ago, okay? Josh Jacobs played Houston. And I would say he's probably in the mold of so Josh Jacobs against Houston had 17 points. So, yeah, I mean, I think Breece could have a good game. Obviously, Josh Jacobs had a good game against Houston just 2 weeks ago. So, yeah. Now, that was in Green Bay, and Stroud had a horrible game. But that was Stroud, and that's usually passing the ball. It's not handing it off to the running back. So, he had 76 yards. So, yeah, not a bad game by Josh Jacobs. So, I would think that Breece should be at that 13 points or higher. And again, I always say that because in a 10-team fantasy league, you want 13 points out of your wide receiver or running back. All right. See, anybody else follow? If you follow, don't forget, to follow me I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitch, although I don't have much of a following on Twitch. I'll be honest with you. I just did it because on StreamYard I can be on Twitch. But if you're on YouTube, you can ask a question, you can follow, and I'll get actually YouTube, I'll get to you right now. Is it Nisha Garcia? For my flex, Jayden Reed or Davante Adams? Oy vey. Oh man, that is not a fun position. I'm not trying to be mean at all, Nisha. Could be Nisha, but I'm just guessing it's Nisha. Here's the thing about Jayden Reed, rather. He doesn't put up enough points. If Willis is the quarterback or if Love is the quarterback, it doesn't necessarily matter because Love is potentially injured. So that could affect his game. But neither quarterback throws often to Reed. And part of that reason is Love, if he quarterbacks, he throws to everybody. He throws to the tight end Kraft. He throws to Wicks. He throws to Dobbs. He throws out of the backfield sometimes. So I don't love Reed in those situations. Now, Davante Adams has not had sort of the games that we all thought he would have once he came to play for one of his closer friends again, you know? So what I'm going to do right now for you, Nisha, is I'm going to look at both players and just let you know my thoughts. Okay, so in the last 4 weeks, Reed has been 11, it's 11.7, 11.8, 2, 6.5. Okay. And then Davante Adams has been 4.5 and 7.5. Okay, so I mean, Reed, oh man, 4.5 and 7.5. In that same time period, Reed has been 2 and 6.5. But 4 weeks ago, Reed hit 11.7 and 11.8. So I see Reed as potentially having a little bit more of a higher ceiling, like he could be higher. However, you sort of have to figure that Adams, I mean, he had 7.5 last week as opposed to Reed's 6.5. You got to figure that Adams is going to have a big game soon, but you know, against Houston, yeah, I mean, Houston's pass defense, let's just see. Texans are number 3. That's not a good matchup at all. And Detroit's pass defense is 27. So based on matchups, you would say Reed. However, Reed doesn't get a lot of points, although week 1 he had 31 and week 4 he had 23, but then he hasn't gotten over 12 in the last 4 weeks. But the safe bet would be Reed. He's a little more steady-ish. You know what he's going to do. He's played in the same system. He's played for the same coaches all season. Adams is a little bit riskier. Like if you're playing a team that's, you know, 70% or higher or something like that right now to beat you, you might want to go with Adams just as a gamble or a risk, but know that you might get 4 points and hopefully, knock on wood, maybe he'll get you 14 this week, but he hasn't done that yet with the Jets. And that's why I'm very apprehensive to say start him. He is a riskier pick. He's more of a gamble on Adams, that is. Reed is a little steadier. I personally would probably go with Reed, but if you're not worried about the risk, I would go with Adams. All right, okay, Stud Muffin, if you're there, I'll jump right back on, but I'm going to get the few people on TikTok. Unfortunately, I'm on different. Amanda Rodriguez, should I start Hall over Hunt/Swift? Well, first of all, the problem with Hall and Hunt is we don't know if Hunt's going to play. So if I say start Hunt and you don't play Hall, okay, and you put Hunt in that position, Hunt might not play, okay? He's questionable. Now, Swift, on the other hand, I don't think that anything's wrong with him. Let me just double check that because so many players are questionable. Yeah. DeAndre Swift is not questionable. My gut tells me I would put Swift down because he's been way more consistent than Hall. I mean, the last 4 weeks, 26, 19, 19, 18.9, and he plays Arizona, and their run defense is the Cardinals are 26 out of 32. So it's a good matchup for Swift. So I would go with Swift if I pick one out of all three of those. Because if I tell you to start Hunt and he doesn't play, like if I say start Hunt and then you fill that position and, Hull could have gone, but I think the safest bet is Swift. All right, we have a bunch of folks on YouTube. I'm going to have to, I know I said Stud Muffin, Breece and Pickens for Connor and Collins. All right, so if you're getting Breece and Pickens has been a little inconsistent. He's had 2 weeks ago, he had 19 points. Last week, he had like 9.6. In a 10-team league, you want your teams to go over 13, or you want your wide receivers and quarterbacks to go over 13. Josh Centeno, did you have another question? No, I don't think you did. Josh, if you have a question, Amanda, okay. Amanda, you'll be right next after Stud Muffin, who's on YouTube. Breece has been inconsistent. I think Connor has been more consistent. (13, 16, 4, 13, 17). Yeah, Connor's been way more consistent. Stud Muffin. So, yeah, and Collins is way better than Pickens, and Collins is way better than Pickens, and Breece and Connor, I'd say Connor is more consistent. I would say if you're getting Connor and Collins, you're winning that trade. If you're giving away Connor and Collins, you're losing that trade. However, all of that is predicated on the fact that Nico Collins comes back and is the Nico Collins he was before the injury. That's the difference. If you feel like Nico Collins, like right now on paper, yeah, do that deal. Connor and Collins, perfect. That's great. My only fear is, does Connor come back the way he was weeks before? Oftentimes these guys do. They're used to the injuries. They sit out 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. In his case, it might have been like 4 weeks, but he might have a little rust maybe as a wide receiver, maybe the routes and timing and things like that and the speed of the game. But here's the thing, okay? Here's a perfect example, and then I'll get to you, Amanda, I promise. Okay, look at the game the Rams played against Minnesota last Thursday night, a week ago, I think, right? Okay, Puka Nacua came out, and it was like he didn't miss a game. It's like he's been playing all year. He had over 100 yards. He looked smooth as ice, okay? Then you had Cooper Kupp. Now I think Puka had like 14 points in my league, and Cooper had like 13, okay? But Cooper, in my mind, did not have the energy, did not have the speed, did not have the routes that Puka did. Now, he got 13 points because 6 of them were on the touchdown he caught from Stafford. And Stafford, if you remember, that's where he was almost tackled. They might have been on like the 13-yard line, I think it was, some of the teams there. And he threw a ball, and Stafford made that touchdown. He was the one that didn't get tackled, got away from the defender, and slung that ball to Cooper in between 2 defenders that were a little far apart from him in the end zone. My point being with all of this is it's predicated on the fact that someone like Nico Collins comes back and plays more like Puka than he does Cooper Kupp. Now, Kupp will probably shake off the rust and should be fine. I know that his was, I believe, an ankle injury, so that might have been part of the reason he wasn't running quite as well as we had hoped or anything like that. But that was the big one there. Okay. So yeah, but if you get Connor and Collins, I think it's a good deal. I think Collins will be good once he's come back. Blue Jays, pick a flex. Hubbard, Myers, Coleman, or Bigsby. The one thing I'm worried about Hubbard, I would usually choose him, but Young is going to be the quarterback again for Carolina. Myers is an okay pick. Keon Coleman is an okay pick with Buffalo. And Bigsby puts up big numbers, but I haven't looked up Bigsby in a couple days here. Let me just see. You're spamming me, and I'm not going to read it if you spam me. It's pretty simple. Let me just look up Bigsby. Bigsby is questionable. I thought he was limited in Thursday's practice, so he has to have a full practice. You keep spamming me. You're still spamming me. I'm going to have to knock you off if you keep. Okay, it's fine. I see you're apologizing. So Blue Jays, I don't even know if you're still around. There's only one person on YouTube, and I have two different people asking questions, but I would probably go with either Myers or Coleman. And Buffalo plays Miami. That's a tougher matchup. Vegas plays Cincinnati, so that could be a good time to put Jacoby Myers in the game because Cincinnati you can throw on. All right, I'll go with E because he or she apologized. Kupp or Wilson? Great question. You got to make that tonight because the Jets play. I like Wilson because he's been putting up decent numbers with the addition of Adams. The Rams play. Man, I should know this stuff. I always sort of sometimes knock the other players or the other people on TikTok, and I say, oh, they don't, they just name names. But I don't know who people play. I can never remember that. The Rams play Seattle. Seattle's pass defense is 29 out of 32. So I would go with Cooper Kupp based on the matchup. Oh, nope. Sorry, that's rushing defense. Yeah. Seattle's 13. Seattle's 13, and it was Houston. Let me look up the Texans. Yeah, the Texans are 3. So I would still go with Kupp based on the matchups. Because the Seahawks are 13. The Texans are number 3 pass defense. All right. Let's see what we got. Anybody new? Anybody I miss on YouTube? If I miss you, let me know. Hook and Reel, if you're still around, let me know. And I'll try to get that answered. All right. We need more. All right. If you're watching this, hit that follow button on TikTok. I have 12 follows. I'm trying to get to 50. I know there's not a lot of people online, probably a mixture of not wanting to see my face and the fact that it's Halloween, which everyone I thought would be watching me. They'd think I have some sort of mask on, but I guess that's not the case, being in the Halloween mood, that is. So maybe that's why things are down. Let me get to Amanda. Did I get to yours? Swift, Hunt, or Neighbors this week in Flex? Yeah, I had not gotten yours. I'm sorry. Swift, Hunt. Okay. Well, Hunt is possibly injured. So you'll have to keep an eye out on that. And Kansas City plays Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's run defense. Let's just look that up real quick. The Buccaneers. How much is it for an ear? A Buccaneer. They're 20th out of 32. So no great shakes. They're not horrible, but they're not great. Swift. I just talked about this. I should know it. Swift plays Arizona. The Cardinals. Run defense. Where you at? Come on. Cardinals are 26th. So Swift has a better matchup than Hunt. And Swift's been putting up pretty good numbers. Now, Neighbors. The Giants play Washington. Washington's pass defense is not great. Let me just make sure the Commanders. Well, it's better than I thought, huh? That's number 6. I would go with Swift based on the matchups and the fact that Swift for like 4 weeks in a row has put up 18 or over points. He's very consistent. Now, as I say that, Amanda, you know, he may lay an egg. God, I would hate that. But last 4 weeks, last week, 18.9, 19.9, 19 even, 26. So there's nothing that, I mean, he's had 93 yards 4 weeks ago and a TD, 73 yards in a TD, 91 in a TD, 129 in a TD. And then even weeks, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, he had 72 yards receiving, 47 yards receiving, and 28. Now, he didn't receive last week against Washington, but he did have 129 yards. So that's why I would go with Swift. I think he has momentum behind him. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that he gets 18, but I think he's most likely to get you over 13 and probably get, you know, a good amount of points over that 13. And that's what you want in a 10-team league. All right. If you're watching this on TikTok or Twitch or anything else, Hook and Reel's never gotten back to me, so I guess he left. Okay, now Amanda Rodriguez says, should I start Neighbors over Tyreek? I think Tyreek had a decent week, right? He had 10 points. That's not great. Neighbors, though, I know I'm pretty sure he got to double digits, but he didn't get to where he was earlier in the season. He had 10 as well against Washington. They play Buffalo. Buffalo's pass defense. The Bills' pass defense is 13. Washington's pass defense, the Commanders, is 6. So I would go with Tyreek. And you figure Tua's back. Their offense is probably, oh, well, okay, hold on a second. Tyreek is questionable with a foot. He was a limited at practice on Thursday. So that's like 50-50. He's got to have a full practice probably tomorrow. Therefore, he'll, you know, probably have a really good chance of playing on Sunday. But you'll have to watch the practice or that little note by their names to see if he practices. This is Tyreek. Now, Neighbors is not listed on an injury report. So you can at least for right now pencil in Neighbors and then see what the report says tomorrow. And either if Tyreek has a full practice, you can probably put him in. You might have to check, you know, an hour, I think they say 90 minutes before kickoff to see if he's playing on Sunday. You might have to check it again on Sunday, but if he has a full practice, he's probably going to go on Sunday. All right. We are all caught up on YouTube. We're all caught up on gifting. Let me see here. You're welcome, Amanda. All right. Pookie Wookie. Makes me laugh. I like that. Happy Halloween again, everybody. Where's Pookie Wookie? Pookie Wookie followed me, but do you have a question? Pookie Wookie, I'm not seeing a question. But thank you for following me. Don't forget, guys and gals, to follow. Hit that follow button. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on TikTok. Also, if you have a chat, put it in there. I'm probably not going to be on much longer. The numbers are not like overwhelming. And it's not to say that I'm just trying to grift everybody. I'm just saying, you know, there's only 13 on TikTok. There's 3 on YouTube. The numbers are down. People are probably doing Halloween things. Eddie Sam followed me. Eddie, what is your question? Trade Kyler Murray for Bo Nix. I also have Lamar. Well, Eddie, here's my question to you. And I don't do this as much as I should, but how does that make you better? Does that make you better? Like trading a quarterback for a quarterback? Is it that you think Bo Nix is better? You know, the way I look at it is if you look at both of them for the last few weeks, they've been points wise. This is just fantasy points wise. Okay. Bo Nix and Kyler Murray, because I think I just looked them up a little bit earlier, are like pretty close statistically to each other. God bless America. I typed Tyreek again. I meant Murray. All right. So Kyler Murray, 4 weeks ago, 25, then 11.96, which is not good for a quarterback in a 10-team league, 21, 22. He's gotten over 20 points 3 of the last 4 weeks. That's Kyler Murray. That is fantastic. In a 10-team league, you want your quarterback to be at 19 or over, and he's done that. All right. Now, if you look at Bo Nix, he has been over 20 3 of the last 4 weeks. His lowest point total is 14, so it's been higher than Kyler Murray. Last week he had 29, but before that he had 21, 23. So really what you're doing from a point-wise perspective over the last 4 weeks, you're trading Kyler Murray for someone that probably, I'm just saying like average-wise, might get you maybe 2 to 3 more points a week, but you're probably not even going to play him that much because you have Lamar. So I don't know what the benefit is. You know, like if you were trading Kyler Murray and you were getting a running back or a wide receiver and you're upgrading your wide receiver group or your running back group, or you're trading for like a really good tight end. You're trading Kyler Murray for a really good tight end. I understand that. But trading those two, like, okay, so you improve just a little bit, but how often are you going to play Bo Nix? Look, I think that Bo Nix in the last 4 weeks, so the statistical data, what little bit, what the 4 weeks that I'm looking at, Bo Nix is a little bit better by 2 to 3 points every week. So yeah, make that deal. It makes your backup quarterback better by 2 to 3 points. However, if you're going to trade Kyler Murray because you have Lamar Jackson, the only question I have is, when is Lamar's bye? Because off the top of my head, I don't know everybody's bye. His bye is 14. So it's probably the first week of the playoffs. So yeah, I would get Bo Nix right now because week 14, you might be in the throes of the playoffs or the first round of the playoffs. Okay. So you'll need those 2 points. So yeah, it's not a bad thing sometimes to put a little strategy and do a little planning behind it. All right. Let's see. Any more follows, guys? Stemmy. Okay. Trade Connor, Burrow, Coleman for Kamara, Mostert, Coleman, and Burrow. What? Oh, for Kamara and Mostert. Connor. Okay, so Burrow's on your bench. Now, Stemmy, I guess that's how you pronounce it. I'm assuming you have another quarterback, or maybe you have 2. I know on one of my teams I have 3 quarterbacks because none of them are really that good. So if that's the case, like if you only have 1 quarterback, you got to hope that they don't have a bye coming up, that they've already had their bye if you're trading away Burrow and he's your second quarterback. Like if you only have 2 quarterbacks and you're trading the backup quarterback away, there's a good chance that, there's a possibility that your starter might still be on a bye. Coleman's on your bench, so that's not bad. Connor, Burrow, Coleman for Kamara and Mostert. I don't know that Kamara is better than Connor, though. See, Kamara's stats are a little wonky. They're good, don't get me wrong, but he had that 1 week where he had 43 points, okay? And if you look at it from a statistical standpoint, while that's great, there's a high probability that he will not score 43 points again. There's a high probability that he won't score 34 points in 1 week, okay? Again, this week or this season. So from that standpoint, you have to, like, if you look at Kamara the last 4 weeks, and that's kind of what I go by, all right? The last 4 weeks, 4 weeks ago, 9.6, 14.9, 5.4, 15.2. Okay, now I know that they're getting Derek Carr back. I believe They are getting Derek. Let me just look that up while I say it. Because the one thing about my TikTok and YouTube is, I have to go with this data, and then I go by context. I go by who they're playing and, whether people are injured and things. Derek Carr is still questionable. What does it say? Carr was limited in practice Thursday. Among skill players on the active roster, remains limited by hand and... Okay, Kamara also has hand and rib fractures. So he might actually be out for a while. So you might be trading for a guy that is not necessarily... Well, I mean, he played last week, though. Okay. What I'm trying to say about Kamara is, though, if you look at the last 4 weeks, he's been inconsistent. Derek Carr went down in week 5. Okay, let me just look this up. In week 5, so up until week 5, Kamara was doing really good. Week 6, he had 14.9, so he did good again. And then he had 5. But week 5, he had 9.6 in a 26-13 loss. They lost 51-27. That was a blowout. They lost 33-10. They lost 26-8, but he had 15 points. So my point being, and I'm taking a long way to get there, is Kamara's been a little bit inconsistent. Now, I know that people will say, well, Alvin Kamara is a better running back than James Conner, like athletically speaking. Somebody last night was telling me that the running back they were trading for was better than the other running back. And I was saying, well, they're actually putting up kind of the same points. And I realized that, in football, it's about athleticism. I mean, they're some of the best athletes in the world. I totally get that, and I respect them for that. I wish I had that kind of athleticism. But you look at Conner, he's had 13, 16, 4.6, 13, 17. So he's had 1 week under 10 in the last 4 games, where Kamara's had 2 in the last 4 games, 9.6 and 5.4. My point is, you're getting Kamara and Mostert, so you probably need running backs. I'm just thinking, could you trade Burrow and Coleman and get Kamara? Could you do that? Or could you trade Coleman straight up and get Mostert and keep Conner? What I'm saying is, I don't think right now there's much of a difference between Conner and Kamara. And actually, in the last 4 weeks, statistically speaking, Conner has been better. All right. So giving away Conner, Burrow, and Coleman doesn't really change anything for you. But if you want to get Kamara, could you trade Burrow and Coleman for just Kamara and not even worry about Mostert? Because obviously you want running backs. I'll look up Mostert too. We're down to 1 whole person on YouTube. Great. Raheem. He had 15 points with Tua coming back, so he can probably put up some good numbers. You really want to get running backs. And again, my point, you could even do, could you do Burrow for Mostert straight up and keep Conner, have Conner and Mostert, and trade Burrow straight up because he's on your bench anyway? Or maybe you do Burrow and Coleman for either Kamara or Mostert? I don't know, just something to think about. Or heck, like I said, could you even do Burrow and Coleman just for Kamara and not put Mostert in? I don't know. But I mean, if those guys are on your bench and you have someone to fill in for Burrow as a backup, I think you're fine, Stemmy. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a good trade. I'm just saying, I actually think Conner might be just as good or a little bit better right now. That's all I'm really saying. All right, everybody, I'm going to head out. Happy Halloween. Good luck on your teams. My next live will be Saturday morning at 11 a.m. So hit that follow on TikTok, hit subscribe on YouTube so you know when I go live. But my next live is 11 a.m. Saturday morning. So I will look for you all then. Thanks for watching.